Hello and welcome to a very special Rolling with Two. We're doing an overview video of Manhattan Project War Machine. I'm Will, and with me as always is the one who's never overdone,
Sarah.
And we're covering this game because there are a little bit of issues with the rules. So we're going to be covering three main aspects of the game. One, how to set up the game. Two, how a turn works. And three, how to score the game. So without further ado, let's get on to how to set up the game. All right, let's set up the player's area. Now there are 10 boards. Fortunately, they are very well labeled, except for one. We'll go through that. Unfortunately, the rules do not use the labeling that's on the boards. So we're going to go over each of these boards and how to set it up. We'll start with the cargo board. The cargo board is the one that has a unique color as well as a picture, whether it be a train, a boat, a truck, or a plane. You'll put it there, and this is also where 3 dice will be placed. They're going to be right aligned. That's how you know you have the right side up. If it's flipped over, this is the one big board that can be flipped, the dice would then be on the left side, which would be wrong. So you're going to want to make sure that it's going to be right aligned. To the right of that are going to be the 2 extension boards for the cargo. They're actually going to be labeled on their backs as A1 and A2. They want to go face down. Below the cargo board, we're going to put the dual layer board, which is the warehouse board where all your resources are. For the time being, put all the resources set to 0. So the pink cylinder at the top, the steel ingot below it, the money symbol below that, and one of the victory points below it. There is a second victory point, so put that off to the side. We just put it to the right of our other 3 resources. That's going to be used on the expansion boards for the warehouse board. Those expansion boards go to the right of it, and they're labeled C1 and C2. If you look at the back of the warehouse board, it is actually labeled C, so you know which one it is in case you have any questions. The final boards that we want to set up are going to be the structure board. This is going to be the largest board. It's actually labeled B on its back. And you put that to the far left, and to the right of it are going to be its expansions labeled B1, B2, and B3 in that order from top to bottom. That will line up with its corresponding industrial, commercial, and governmental sections. Now, the final thing to do for player setup is you're going to take 2 company cards and 2 goal cards. Each player will have a chance to look at these. They'll choose one of each type. The company card is going to be an ability that can be used during the course of the game, and the goal card is going to be something larger that will score a player points. They'll choose one of each type and return the other 2 to the box. Now we can move on to the main board setup. Let's set up the main board. Unfold the main board. That is step 1. Step 2 is adding the round tracker to the main board. That's located at the top. The board is going to be divided into 6 triangular sections, the top being where the round marker goes. Now, where the round marker starts depends on the player count. For a 2-player game, we're going to put it on 6. Now, you can also tell that for a 3-player game, we'd start it instead on 5. And even though it's not marked, it does mention in the rules that if you're playing a 4-player game, you'd set the round marker to 4. In this example, we're going to set up for a 2-player game, so we're putting it on 6. Moving clockwise, we get to the first of the section. Now, the rules simply say put the tiles on their respective sections. However, it's poorly indicated by the board, so we're going to tell you that this section on the right is for government. And what that requires you is to shuffle up the government tiles and place 3 in their located spots as shown here. Moving further down clockwise, we got our first space where we put the extra tokens that we're going to be using during the game. This is currently labeled Action Stations Everyone. We decided to put the pollution tokens here. You can also put the dice here, and they're interchangeable. but this is where we're putting the pollution tokens. Continuing clockwise, we're at the bottom of the board, and this is where the commercial buildings go. And they are set up pretty much the same as government, except, well, they're labeled commercial. Moving clockwise, this is where we put the extra dice. Now, each player will have a chance to earn up to 2 more dice to play with. So in a 2-player game, we're adding 4 dice to this section. And what is this section labeled?
Nothing matters now but victory.
Indeed. Moving clockwise again, we're finally on the last section on the left side of the board, and this is the industrial section. It's set up like the other 2 with 3 tiles face up and a face down stack nearby. That's how you set up the main board. Now, before we move into a sample turn, let's do a quick overview of the dice. Now, at the very top is going to be the atomic symbol. This is going to be the best symbol on any of the dice because it can actually activate any action. However, if you take it, you'll also be getting a pollution symbol, which is worth -1 point at the end of the game. Now, during the course of the game, you might have a chance to flip it up, and that will turn the pollution into the cleanup worth +1 point at the end of the game. So there is a risk in taking the atomic symbol, which represents nuclear power. It's the most useful, but it also has a bit of risk. Now, below those are 3 unique symbols. The star represents government. This is going to give you the best possible actions for government section actions. To the right of it is the hat. That represents commercial. That will give you the best commercial actions in the game. To the right of it is the wrench. That is industrial. That will give you the best industrial actions in the game. Now, when you take one of these, you will get the best action in that zone, but you can't activate actions in the other 2 zones. The final one of the 6 sides of the dice are going to be 2 lightning bolts. Now, these are very versatile and can go pretty much anywhere. However, they have some restrictions. They can't be placed out by themselves. They need another die to be present before you can even place them. Additionally, they give you the weaker actions located in any of the spots. So make sure you know what you want to do before choosing which dice to keep. So to start a sample turn, there's going to be 4 phases. The first phase is rolling your player dice and choosing which ones to keep. Now, when the active player goes, they're the only ones rolling dice. No other players are rolling dice at this time. You'll take the dice off your cargo board and roll them. Now, you can choose to keep 1 or all or any number of the dice you've rolled. Now, if you want to re-roll, you have to at least take 1 die. So, choose a die. Now you got 1 more re-roll. She can choose to keep her dice, both, or just keep 1 and re-roll the other. All right, now she's finished rolling. She has 1 option. Each turn, you can choose to burn a die to change 1 die to any side. Now, if she's upgraded the main player board, she has a different option. Instead of burning a die, she can just choose 1 of the dice and make it whatever side she wants. And as we covered over the dice and how to look at them and value them, that's going to tell you which dice you probably want to keep versus which ones you don't want to keep. Once you've done that, you're ready to move on to step 2. All right, now that Sarah has her dice, she can take global actions. Now, each of the 3 main areas, which are government, commercial, and industrial, have space for 3 dice. It is important to note that the first space in each of these areas has a matching icon. So for government, it's the star. For the commercial, it's the hat. In industrial, it's the wrench. That means that first space has to either be that specific symbol on the dice or the atomic symbol. It cannot be the lightning symbol. That means if you start out with lightning, you can't place it on the board for your first die. It has to be one of the other symbols. Placing one of the dice will then do something interesting. If it is an atomic symbol or one of the matching wrench, hat, or star, you're going to be taking an action, and it'll be the better action. And what I mean by that is each area will have 4 actions for the specific atomic / specific symbol, and 3 actions for lightning bolts. So let's go over a brief description. So for government, if you put the star in there and want to produce something, it'll produce pink cylinders, which they call chemistry here. The instructions call it harvest for food, so it's up to you what you want to think of it as. Now, if you put the hat symbol in the commercial, that will get you money. And if you put it, the wrench in the industrial, or against the atomic symbol, that will get you steel. Now, the lightning bolt version of that will be less of those resources. It's also important to note that when putting that symbol or that die out there, Sarah will get the big effect, but I, as being a second player, or if we had even Nanaman as a third player, we would then have the option of choosing a lightning bolt action, and it doesn't have to be the production that Sarah chose. Now, let's say Sarah didn't want production. There's also a trading option. So for the government section, it's trading in the steel for victory points. For commercial, it's trading in either food or steel for money. And for industrial, it's trading in food for victory points. Again, you can do it more often for more victory points with the main matching icon or atomic symbol, and do it for less points and less often for the lightning symbol. The third action is the build option. So this allows you to have some options when you put the matching symbol or the atomic symbol. You get a discount for that zone when building in that zone. So for example, if you're building in the, let's say the government section, its primary build resource is steel. So you'll get 1 discount. Any government building you build in there for 1 steel, you'll still have to pay the rest. Or you have the option of choosing any other zone to build at its normal price plus 1 additional, in this case for government, food. Now the lightning version of that just lets the person build for the price of the government building at its regular cost, no discount. Now the final 4th action in all areas is a flipping action. So for government, if you pay the requisite amount, you get to flip a pollution token from its -1 side to its positive +1 side. In the commercial area, you get to flip up the tiles that are related to structure or warehouse by paying its requisite amount. And for the industrial section, if you pay 6 money and take that action, you can then flip up the cargo boards or their expansions. And if you flip up a cargo board expansion, that will immediately give you a dice, which you'll roll. And if it's a atomic symbol, you'll take pollution and have another worker to activate on this turn. That's an overview of all the actions. Let's move on to the structures. All right, so we moved through the second phase, which was global actions. Now we're on to the third phase, which is operating structures that you have built. Now we've moved forward in time for Sarah, and she's upgraded all her cargo boards, so she has all 5 dice. And in fact, she even rolled like all 5 symbols. Now she has some structures she can operate. Now, to start off, she can't have any choice over the specific symbols of government, commercial, or industrial. They have to go to the left of those respective areas. What she does have a choice in is where she puts her atomic symbol as well as her lightning bolt symbol. Now, if she didn't have a die in, say, one of the sections, so let's take it off the commercial, she wouldn't then be able to put the lightning bolt there, because just like the global actions, the lightning bolt needs to have another dice present. So you can put your commercial back. Now she does have a choice where to put the atomic symbol and where to put the lightning bolt. The atomic symbol can be put on any of the 3 zones, but it can also be placed on her company card. And her company gives her victory points and everyone else a food. Now, it is important for her to decide in what order to activate these things. So Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit of your strategy?
All right, so first of all, I ended up putting the lightning bolt in here with the government so that I have 2 dice to activate the tile that requires 2 dice for the activation. Currently, I do not have any other tiles that would require 2 dice, so this is the best place to use the lightning bolt. And the top hat here would cover the forester down there. Now, it's important to know how these work. So this first one here in government, the harbor zone, has arrows left and right, and it itself takes no dice to activate, but it activates when other tiles that are government activate. In this case, when I activate a government tile, I can choose to gain a money or a food, the pink cylinder. So the other thing is I could activate a government building, then I could go down here to commercial and I can go back or whichever way. But if you look, I have this disposal site that lets me clean up this pollution and turn it into clean energy. And if I do that before I activate the forester, I will make more money. So let's do that. To activate, you push this down to show that you can't use this again. That's this red X. Oh, well, first, of course, you need to make sure you have the activation dice, which I do, the 2. So then we will take a tile and we'll flip it up. So now I have 2 clean energy. So now I can go down here to the forester, activate it because I have the top hat, and I will gain 2 money, which I will track on my cargo board.
Your warehouse.
Sorry, warehouse.
Provided she has the space.
That's true. Provided I have the space to have more money. Lastly, oh, and of course, I would choose when I had done the disposal site, I would have chosen to gain extra money or food.
Which might be the reason why she doesn't have space.
Right. Now, for this treasury, it has 3 individual dice, which means they can be activated up to 3 times. Now, I only have 2 dice, so I can only activate it up to twice, which I will do. But the neat thing is each activation also activates the harbor zone. So let's say for the first one, well, I get a money because, well, that's what the treasury does. But for the harbor zone, I am running out of space for money, and since I'm gonna get another money from the treasury, I decide to get food from the harbor zone. And for the second activation of the treasury, I do the same thing so that I get a money from the treasury and a food from the harbor zone. Now, the harbor zone never has to get pushed down or up because it does not have dice activation. You will also notice that down here in the commercial zone, I have this tile that I haven't touched, the labor union, because that's game end. I don't have to really do anything with that until we get to scoring at the end of the game. And what it says is that I will get 1 victory point for each commercial building that I make up to 5, which you can only make up to 5. You can do these 3, and then if I upgrade this board, I have space for 2 more.
It's also important to note that dice don't get used up when you activate tiles.
Right.
So on her government section, she activated all her tiles even though she only has 2 dice. Well, that's because the structure tiles don't use up dice. They just check to make sure she has the required number of workers, which are the dice,
right,
for them to be activated.
And actually, I forgot my company card. Because I have the atomic die on it, I will gain 2 victory points, which I will track on my board, and everyone else gets a food if they have the room for it.
Yay! Now let's move on to step 4, cleanup. All right, the final thing you do on your turn is cleanup. So to do cleanup, you take all the dice that you have on your structure board and return them to your cargo board. Additionally, you take all the structures that you've used and activated and move them back up so they're ready to be used again for the next turn. You'll also check to see if it's the end of the game.
Or round.
Or round. Otherwise, it moves on to the next player, which would be me. Now, the final thing we want to cover is a sample scoring situation. Now, you will notice on your warehouse board, there is a part place 4 victory points. Now these victory points are only tracked from actions that are taken from global actions, which were on the main board, and operating your structure buildings. They don't come from calculating pollution or other boards that you might have flipped up, or even your goal card. They only come from global actions and structure actions. So that's the first total that you have. In this case, how many points do we have?
We have 17.
All right, 17 points. That's where we're starting. Now let's look at our pollution. How many pollution do we still have versus clean energy?
We have 1 pollution and 4 clean energy.
So that'll net us another 3 points. So we'll write that down. Now we look at all the boards that we have flipped up. In this case, on the structure side, we flipped up the government as well as commercial. So that's 4 points. We've flipped up both warehouse. That's another 4 points. And we flipped up the 2 cargo extensions, which is another 4 points. So that's 12 more points. All right, next we'll look at the warehouse board. Now, if we got any resources on the first expansion, that'll get us another 1 point. And if we got any on the second expansion, that would have scored us another 2 points. That's not unfortunately mentioned in the rules, but it is clarified on BGG.
And so for this example, we have 1 money on the money token on the first board. So that would net us another 1 point. Unfortunately, steel and food did not get that far.
All right. Now, the next thing we'll look at scoring is our structure cards and look for the end of game. And what do we got there?
So for government, we have the finance center, which gives us, so for every 3 money, we get 1 victory point, a max of 5. We got to only 11 money, unfortunately.
But that's still 3 points.
It is. And then in the commercial, we got the labor union, which gives us 1 point per commercial building. And we managed to build 4.
So 4 points. All right, the final thing we'll look for scoring is our goal card. Did we make our goal card?
Well, unfortunately, our goal card was a reveal when you get to 15 money. That means during the game or at the end of the game, but generally you're going to reveal it during the game. Unfortunately, it looks like we never got to 15 money, so we do not get the extra 5 points.
All right, you take all those totals, add them up, and whoever has the highest points wins. All right, thanks Will and Sarah for that special report. Now, one thing that is important to note that we didn't mention in the video is for a tiebreaker, whoever has the most resources overall will win the game. Otherwise, you have to celebrate as a tie, and nobody likes that in war.
No,
right?
Yeah, nobody likes to share victory.
Yes. Now, we did notice there are a lot of problems, and there are resources out there to help. Sarah, where can they find those?
Well, if you have further questions that this video did not cover, or you'd like to talk to other people about their experiences with the game, we highly recommend going to Board Game Geek, go to the search function and type in Manhattan Project War Machine. You can then bring up the page for the game, which will give you a lot of information, but the main thing is there's a forum there, as well as a file section. Now, the file section is important because the company Grail Games is trying to make things better. And so they are working on revising the rules, but what they do have as of this recording is they have a reference sheet for all of the tiles in the game. And that means that you can, print that out or just keep it digitally handy for when you have questions on how does this tile work from that tile.
Yeah, even though we know how the game works, we still have questions, and that is a very useful resource.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was thanks to you saying, hey, listen, buddy.
I pretty much said, could you really pretty please make this? Because we are confused. So as we talk about in our videos. Now, if you have questions, go to the forum section. There's a rules section. There's just lots of different sections. You can read what's been posted. There is an official FAQ that the company is pulling from that thread to try to create their own FAQ document. They have one, but they haven't updated it in a month or so. So hopefully they will do that soon. And then hopefully also they will update the rules document itself. Until then, that is a great resource to find hopefully answers to your questions and then ask your questions if you can't find answers.
All right. And that's it for us. And you could call this a roll overview.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.